Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack, where the Jazz hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, and Ace Bailey, for the first time in a Jazz uniform, made it into the starting lineup. Let's talk about it.
Jazz Smack, NBA and Utah Jazz basketball.
So Ace was able to start tonight with the health concerns with Taylor Hendricks. So Ace was inserted into that starting lineup, and he finished playing significant minutes, 27 and a half minutes. He also scored in double figures with 10 points. He grabbed 7 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass, and he also finished with some assists and some steals. 2 assists, 3 steals. So all in all, I think this was a good outing for Ace. I mean, I think inserting him into the starting lineup, having him play significant minutes, 27 and a half minutes, that's a lot of minutes, and he was still able to contribute. Now, was he fantastic? No. But he was certainly a contributor. And that's what I'm looking for from him at this point in time. I just wanted to see him make some plus plays. And that first basket that he got, where he got the offensive rebound and immediately put it back, that was fantastic. And that's a plus play. That's a winning play. Now, yeah, there are going to be some errors still with Ace. We know that. But overall, I thought this was a good first outing. And to the Jazz credit as a team, they were much more competitive in this first half, considering that they lost by 40 to Minnesota just a few days ago. So they were, in this first half, they were much more competitive. They took it to the locker room, within a few points. They were up 3 at the half. I'd say as a team, they certainly put in more effort, and I'm sure that Hardy was on them after that last game for the effort that they displayed. But again, they put in a good half of basketball. The second half didn't go so well, but overall, I think that considering how that last game went, and they took this game all the way down to the wire, I think it's probably, I'd say I'm pretty pleased, and it kept the game entertaining, and it kept the game in reach so the guys can have learning experiences still instead of being down 20, 30, or 40.
Yeah, fans have been clamoring for Ace to start, so we got that. I don't know if it's going to continue through the year, but I think that it checked the box for a lot of fans as they wanted to see Ace. And I think when your team is struggling, doing something to appease the fans that also is potentially giving Ace some time to develop is really good. The other thing is that you mentioned it, is that we were wondering how the Jazz were going to come out. And let's just be really frank about it. Minnesota is a much better team than the Jazz. There's no question about it. They got some real players, and I want to talk about that later. I am thoroughly impressed at how some of the players have developed on that team. But we were competitive in this game. Ace, he had this give and go with Nurk back to the three-point line that was really great for a guy at his age. Then he had the athletic play where he dunked it in the fourth quarter, where he flew underneath the basket and dunked it. And I noticed and Edwards commenting to him after the game on the sideline, saying, yeah, that was a play. So it was, it's not perfect. It's still, he's not getting a ton of points, but it was, it was certainly impressive and showing the signs. And I love the 3 steals. Honestly, I really love the 3 steals out of him.
Yeah, especially considering what a struggle it's been for the Jazz the last few years defensively, to see guys be in that category in plus steals, that's a huge deal for the development and improvement of the Jazz defense. Because right now, the Jazz are, I have a stat here, the Jazz are 25th right now in forcing opponent turnovers, 25th in the NBA. So opponents turn the ball over 14.2 times per game. That is 25th in the entire NBA. On the other hand, the Jazz turn the ball over 17.6 times per game, which is 29th. So that's a number that needs to reverse itself at some point. Now, we have a very young team, but in order to prove defensively, you got to get into guys, you got to force steals, and the Jazz aren't doing that right now. So seeing Ace come up with 3 steals, I think is a really big deal. I think that's a big deal on the road to the Jazz finally being, a plus defensive team. Now, there's a long ways to go. There's no doubt there's a long ways to go, but you got to look for positive signs along the way, and this is one of those.
Yeah, and you said that, let's face it, this has been an issue that the Jazz have had now for 3 years. So this is nothing new, but the only way you address it is start to improve upon it. So that means being tougher on defense, forcing more turnovers, and then cutting your turnovers down at the same time. And that's not something over the last 3 years the Jazz have done. So when you see a guy who's willing to do that, I think it's really encouraging. And Ace has so many different skills in different ways that even though if you look at his defensive rating, it's not stellar right now. In fact, you would say it's not good. But that's okay because he's a young guy, 10 games into his career, and he keeps showing these flashes in different ways that make us all excited as fans.
Yeah, well, one of the things is the Jazz have always talked. I mean, one of the things that Danny Ainge wanted plus size at each position. Now, if they're going to play Ace, as they did tonight, they started him at the 2 guard, supposedly. At least that's the way it was in the box score. You could say that Svi's the actual 2 guard, and Ace is small forward. But either way, Ace is, as a small forward, he's borderline having plus size. But as a 2 guard, he certainly has plus size. And when we are playing Collier and Keyonte in the backcourt, that's a backcourt that certainly does not have plus size, or Collier and Walt, or Walt and Keyonte. That's certainly a non-plus size backcourt. So seeing Ace in one of those perimeter positions helps just from a length standpoint. And you can see all the length that Minnesota has. Minnesota can really get... The one thing about Anthony Edwards, people talk about his offense, but when that guy wants to defend, that dude can really defend, and he'll get after it. He can slide his feet. He's tough. He's physical. He gets into guys. He can defend when he wants to, when he really wants to. And I'd say that he's certainly a plus defender. I mean, he is as intense at times as you would see Jordan being at times, or Kobe being at times on the defensive end. And both of those guys were terrific defensive players. That's one of the reasons why, they ended up with the reputation they did and won all those titles, is because those guys really defended. And that's what we need the Jazz to do. We got to get a bunch of guys, a number of guys who can play 35 minutes a game and play on both sides of the court. Be plus players on both ends of the court. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think that looking at the Minnesota players, there's a lot of guys we can look over there. They say, look, we hope our guys evolve into some of that. Now, you pointed out Anthony Edwards, and I looked at him tonight, and I looked at him the last game. Boy, if you were playing against that guy, not only is it humbling, but this guy beats you down. You can just see him trash talking, look, who'd he cross up? He crossed up Flip, and then he did it to somebody else too. Was it Keyonte? Somebody that he just drove in and stepped back. I mean, it was really impressive. But the guy that I am thoroughly impressed with this year is McDaniel. He's improved a lot. I mean, his offensive game has come around, and defensively, he is just so long and skilled that, boy, that guy. I could see this team doing something. Honestly, it's a thin team. It's not a deep team, but they got some real players on there. And I want to tell you a stat I was looking at Randall before the call, because he had a lot of assists tonight. Through the year, 7.1 rebounds, 6.1 assists. He's your power forward, 6.1 assists. He's shooting 40% from 3. If he keeps that up, and I know it's 10 games, so you don't know, but if he keeps this up, that's a real team. They've had 11 games. I think 7 of them had been on the road. So that explains some of their record. So I'd watch out for this team. I really like them.
Yeah, I think I mean Minnesota certainly in one of the handful of teams that has a real opportunity, depending on how injuries go with them and other teams and everything else. You know, the health thing is a huge issue, but they're one of the teams with the real opportunity come playoff time again to be in the mix of teams that have a shot at it. So yeah, this team's really good. I mean, I saw some rumor out there that Minnesota's already contacted Memphis about Morant, and quite frankly, I would think it would be a dereliction of duty for the GM not to contact Memphis about Morant, because they were to add Morant to that team. The problem for Minnesota is who would they have to give up to get him, and who do they have? What do they have? I mean, Morant's a max money guy, so you got to give up a lot of money in that swap. And what else do you have? They already traded all their bunch of draft picks to the Jazz, so it's like they don't have a surplus of first round picks and stuff that they can throw at a Morant trade. So I would say that that's highly unlikely to happen, just because Minnesota doesn't have the trade assets to do that. But this team even as is, and their point guard play isn't stellar. Mike is aging. Dillingham, I would say at this point on a competitive team, is virtually unplayable. He's in his second year. He's barely played any minutes, and he's not playing any minutes because, like, they're trying to win something significant. They're not in the Jazz situation. They're actually trying to win games and trying to position themselves for a playoff run. So that means Dillingham isn't getting experience, whether or not he's going to be a player in the future or not. Right now, he isn't. So that's the situation with Minnesota. And I think we can both say that we really like this team.
Yeah, unfortunately, because we have their draft picks. But who knows? Like, we have one in 2029, and it's a protected pick. I think a top 4 protected. But, if they don't win, Anthony Edwards could walk. And if Anthony Edwards walks, the whole thing falls apart. So I wouldn't give up yet on the draft picks, but I really like this team now. It's not that I don't like some other teams, because clearly Oklahoma City I like a ton. Denver I like a ton. But I am thoroughly impressed with how McDaniel has improved his game. And I think Randall is underappreciated in how good he actually is. And Edwards, forget about it, right? His three-point shot this year, I looked at it, it's 49%. I know it's 10 games, but that athleticism, I mean, he's improved in every aspect. And you're right, like, he is if he wants to, when he needs to in the playoffs, he'll turn it up. And with his athleticism and size and strength, he is really hard to score on. He may be the best defensive player on their team. Who knows? I mean, it may not be McDaniel. It may be Ant. So they're good.
Or Rudy anymore.
Or Rudy.
Yeah.
Rudy looked nimble in this game. That's the other thing, is that Rudy had all the off-court issues this offseason, but he looked really nimble. I thought, too, it's like, Rudy, please don't hold out your hands and ask people to throw it to you in the post. Just move out of the way and dunk the ball. But defensively, he looks really nimble and moving around. He looked good.
Yeah. So getting back to the Jazz, we have talked a lot about the defense, and that's clearly been the focus of the Jazz. Like we've previously said, like, all the players have stated that was the entire focus of training camp and everything. So right now, the Jazz opponent field goal percentage, the Jazz are 19th in the NBA in opponent field goal percentage at 47.3. They are 16th in opponent three-point field goal percentage at 35.7. So thus far, we aren't seeing great numbers, but at least we aren't seeing the worst numbers. And I think those two numbers are the numbers that I really like to track. Those field goal percentage numbers are vitally important. The best opponent field goal percentage in the league right now is OKC, as you would expect, because OKC plays the best defense. So, it's going to be interesting to track those two numbers specifically throughout this season to see where they go, because we really need to see meaningful improvement in those numbers. Yes, we can look at the opponent points per game right now, but there are other factors in that with the turnovers and everything that I think that those field goal percentage numbers, those opponent field goal percentage numbers are more important, because right now the Jazz are, I believe they're 25th in the NBA in points allowed per game at 120. So we do need to track that number too. But your pace of play and all that factors into that too. So there's a lot more into that number than there is into just the flat out the field goal percentage numbers.
Yeah, let me throw out one guy that I don't know if you're going to get to him, but I want to make sure we talk about him. Is that Isaiah Collier? Isaiah Collier had 7 assists tonight in 16 minutes. Walt had 18 minutes, 2 assists, but Walt, he comes in, he's a different level in shooting than any of the other guards. Let's just, any of the point guards or quasi point guards. I mean, his shot is just so good. And if you look at his stats on the road trip, it's already showing, that he can really shoot the ball. But Isaiah, when he's playing, like I heard commentary in the last game where, okay, why are you starting these 2 guards? And they didn't do it today. Like, because they're both undersized, pulling Keyonte off. But there's a different level of point guard play, not shooting, not scoring, but passing and getting the team into positions to score, in good positions to score when Isaiah plays. 16 minutes and 7 assists is incredibly impressive, and yeah, we don't want to dwell on the things that Isaiah doesn't do well. We all know that. He knows that. He's going to have to prove that. But just playing pure point guard and getting, the team in, he is incredibly skilled at it. So I hope he continues to get more and more minutes. And of course, I hope he hits his shots, because he has a different level that our other guards don't have right now.
Yeah, he's clearly actually running an offense. He's clearly the best on the team, and actually running a break, he's clearly the best on the team. So I don't want Isaiah's minutes to be cut off. We all know what the issue is with Isaiah. The biggest issue. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it's his shooting. He knows it's his shooting. So, and I'm interested to see. I mean, he claims to have put up so many shots this summer in attempts to, improve his shooting. And I think that not only am I interested in seeing if that has played out in, his improved shooting or not, but I assume that everybody else is waiting to see whether or not he shows improvement this year too. So, and right now he hasn't shot a lot of threes. So in the 2 games that he has played, so I'm interested to see him, at some point this season, whether it's the next game or 2 or 3, he's going to get more minutes. Maybe he gets more minutes just because Hardy chooses to switch up the lineup because things aren't going well. Maybe he gets more minutes because somebody goes down with a sprained ankle or something like that, so he gets more minutes. But he's going to get some more minutes, and he's going to get an opportunity to show everybody, whether or not his shooting has improved. And I am thoroughly looking forward to seeing what he has done.
Yeah, and of course, we hope it's improved. We want Isaiah to succeed. We want him to be part of our team. We think he has a skill set, as you said, that the other players don't have. I mean, I would throw Flip in there, too, of being able to get the team going, because I do think from the forward position, he is extremely skilled at that. But from all around, pushing the ball, breaking players down, doing slip passes, there's really no one like him. And we're going to look at some of these advanced statistics probably in about a week to see how the team shoots with one player versus another. And we don't know the answer to that, right? We haven't looked at the stats yet, but I think it'll be really interesting to see that. And I think you and I have a hypothesis that when Isaiah is playing point, the rest of the team plays better. We'll see if that's actually true or not. But I really liked his high assist numbers in his short minutes in the game. And honestly, he shot 2 of 3. So, there was no 3-pointers. He's got to be able to do that. But that's the thing. Like, honestly, at point guard, we only have one point guard that really has shown he can consistently hit 3, and that's Walt right now. And, all 3 of them need to show, playing in the NBA at playing point guard, you're at a disadvantage unless you can hit 3. And that means the league average last year for 3-point shots was 36.8%. In my mind, if you want to be a plus player, unless you have incredible skills everywhere else, you should at least be shooting that if you want to be shooting a 3-point shot. You shouldn't be shooting 33, 32%. That's a negative relative to league average. So let's see how these guys progress. We're rooting for all of them. Always, of course, we want them all to shoot the ball well because it just gives us more strength as a team.
And one of the things with Collier too that the other point guards, the other two guys, Walt and Keyonte, the other two guys playing point guard at this point, one of the things he can do, he's the most well equipped to handle pressure from the other team with the ball in his hands, because we know the struggles with Keyonte and ball, when he has the ball in his hands and he's pressured. I mean, Ant picked him clean tonight and went down the other end. And then I think it was Jaden McDaniels on the perimeter, it was up near half court, and he went into the back court and turned it over. So we've seen that, and we saw that with Walt too in the summer league. Walt is, he's certainly not the ball handler with the strength and everything that Collier has with the balls in his hands to withstand that type of ball pressure. And so that's something unique to him compared to the other options we have on the team right now, that he can withstand that. Keyonte has certainly improved in that area, and I look for Walt to improve in that area too. But right at this very moment, Collier is certainly the best at handling ball pressure.
I agree with that, but I'd also say I think Keyonte improved a lot over the summer to where he was last year. Remember last year, the teams would just that's why I think one of the reasons he's pushed to the bench is teams would just pressure him the whole court, like they did a scouting report, like, look, we can cause this guy to turn over the ball because he can't get it up the court. And this year, that's not the case. he seems a lot tighter with his handle. So I give him credit for some really hard work in doing that. But I think Isaiah's been doing that his whole career, from early teens playing point guard. So he's had that happen throughout, and his handle is good, right? And the other thing with him, as we both said, that guy's a bulldog too. He is a tough player. So he can just bowl people over, and sometimes he bowls them over, gets lots of foul. But he's just got that skill set to be able to do that. So let's just I don't want to dwell on the negative with him because we all know what it is. But that's the part none of us doubt the rest of the part of that game, because it's really elite. And I think when fans said, look, we don't understand why he's playing point guard. Well, honestly, he has a skill set of playing point guard that our other guys right now don't have. And I'm actually glad he's playing point guard because I think that the team plays better around him.
Yeah. He's more of a natural point guard than the other two. That's quite obvious. So anyway, do you have any other comments about for this evening? Because I think that's all the stats that I pulled up that I was interested in looking at.
No, I don't. I lost it. I listened to a couple of podcasts today that I found some interesting stats that I need to verify in this end, but where the Jazz rank in getting time to get into plays, time to get across the half court, they were very low. And I think it's something we need to look at. It's just, I don't want to quote the stats without verifying them, because I've done that in the past and found out that I was quoting some stats that somebody was saying that were wrong. So I don't want to do that, but that's what we're going to look at in the next couple of weeks, is that we're going to start looking at players, and we're also going to start looking at some of these advanced stats that I think are going to be really interesting to see, how our team is playing, how our players are playing, what they're good at, what they're, they could be improved on. But let's hold that for about a week or so.
Yeah, I it's noticeably slower right now. Getting the ball up court, getting into offense and everything else, it's really slowed down. And I think that's partly he wanted to try and stabilize the defense. And to do that, you got to kind of slow down the offense and get the turnovers under control, and also get the floor balance better to try and improve the defense. So it'll be interesting to look at the statistics and see where this is, because from me just watching the games without looking at the statistics, it's obvious to me that things have really slowed down, and I think that Hardy has purposely done that in order to try and improve the defense. So I think he's purposely slowed down the offense to try and improve the defense. I think that's what he's done so far.
Yeah, let me just say one more thing, because I was looking at this to end on, is that if the Jazz are in the 9th position or lower in this upcoming draft, we lose a draft pick. One of the worst trades that we've ever made with Oklahoma City, the best traders around. This is the last year that we can lose it. So one of the things that we have to focus on is if we win too many games, and it's a lottery, so we can go up and down as we saw last year with Dallas. But if we win enough games and we fall out, we lose that draft pick. And of course, that's another year lost where we don't have a draft pick to try to get better. Right now, we're 6th worst in the standings, and there are 3 teams that have only won 1 game. We won 3. And I don't know if those teams are going to win. They're going to win some more games, but not a lot. They are very bad teams. So, it's not yet too early to watch, or that we want to focus too much on the tanking, because we want to be competitive in these games. But we do have to watch it, because there are some teams that I think are clearly just trying to lose this year. And honestly, I think our goal is to be in the worst 4. I think our goal is to play young players, play hard, develop, but also not be too good, because we got to keep our draft pick next year. And we don't want to have to be lucky like Dallas was or Atlanta was, in moving up. We really want to make sure we are guaranteed like one of those top picks.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to finish with a better record than we did last year in terms of like the positioning, because I think that home court advantage in Salt Lake, I just don't think there's any way around that. If you're trying to win, you're going to win some of those games. So that's the way I've always felt. I mean, I think for any head coach to get the Utah job is a massive blessing, because you have an inherent advantage over every other team in the NBA other than one, the Denver Nuggets. And that's a big thing. And so it's really hard to lose in Salt Lake. And if you're trying to win, as Austin Ainge said they are, I mean, I think they're going to win more games than they did last year.
Yeah, and they're playing more and more veterans, as you assumed that they would. They're playing more and more veterans.
Yeah. And Yang isn't even played yet, and he's going to play a lot. I guarantee you.
Yeah. So the reality is, both Hardy and the younger Ainge are trying to win this year. So we even have a risk we could lose that draft pick, right? I mean, that's because I agree with you. If I were to give you a number right now, I'm going to guess we're going to be between the 6th to 8th worst record at the end of the year. And that's a very dangerous position to be in when you have like that hanging overhead. Plus, we saw there's a big difference in getting the number 5 pick versus number 9 and 10. But let's play it out. I mean, right now, it's early in the season. We do want to be competitive. This was so much better than the last game. So, we're looking at the positives, but let's keep an eye on the standings as well, because, we got to get the number 1 pick one time, right? We've yet to do it. We got to get the number 1 pick one time, and our best shot of doing it is to be, unfortunately, near the lower end of the standings. Yeah,
agreed. Well, I think that's we'll call it a night for this edition of Jazz Smack. But please, for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack, and we will talk to everybody later.